Dr. Seuss had this amazing quote: "Be who you are and say what you feel, because those that mind don't matter, and those that matter don't mind."
All right. Here we go. Let's get this off the screen. All right. Ready to rock and roll. All right, here we go. Episode 10, kids. GBG. We're going to jump into some stuff right away because this is a doozy. This one's going to be a big one. All right, first of all, I want to thank everyone for joining me either live on Facebook or maybe you're joining us on the RTF Sports Network or Twist, the Week in Sports Talk. Twist is usually broadcast live on Saturday late morning. Or you can see it at several different times of the day on RTF Sports Network or anytime on the website Twist Sports Talk. You can also see Mike on the mic and Benzi's Bit, my two co-hosts on that show. Speaking of my two co-hosts on that show, we did not have a Twist episode yesterday because we had Matt's bachelor party. 7 sober guys hanging out, having a good time playing games that were designed for 9-year-olds. It was a good time. Just got to do a shout out real quick. The way they did it was Matt, the groom, was the captain of one team, and Mike, the best man, was the captain of the other team. Matt, with his first pick, decided to go with his future brother-in-law. Good choice. Mike, with his first pick, took me. I'll give you a guess who won the gold. Yeah, that's right. Mike and I did. Matt, sorry, dude. Sometimes you got, Austin was great in bags. But, I wasn't going to let that Frisbee hit the ground. Anyway, so it was a lot of fun. So just want to jump right into it. So let's go. I hate when this happens. It's like I got to go and, find my things on here just because people don't know what I'm talking about, which is funny because everyone does know what I'm talking about. I go in the same order for the show every week. Here we go. Sports talkers for the week. Let's start off with baseball. This is so typical of baseball. Toronto announces today that the Toronto Blue Jays will not be allowed to play their home games in Canada because they're afraid of the outbreak or spreading COVID, especially with teams traveling in and out of Canada to the United States, back and forth. They're not under the same restrictions. Canada, good for you. You had your rules. You have your goals, your ideas, what you want to do to combat COVID. You guys are allowed to do that. Baseball. Way to check this one off the box. An entire team is not allowed to play in the state or in the country in the stadium that you kind of anticipate them playing in. There's nothing more baseball than this. The next story I want to get into is Elena Delle Donne of the WNBA. The WNBA reigning MVP has Lyme disease and asked for an exemption. So she wouldn't have to play this year in this shortened season because, her body or immune system is more susceptible to COVID. And at first, they denied her request. And then the team she plays for came back and said, look, we're going to pay you regardless if you want to play or not, if you want to be here or not. Smart for them. I mean, she is the reigning MVP. She is one of the faces of the league. You kind of want those people to be happy with you. As far as the WNBA is concerned, look, I don't care what the reason is. If someone says that they have health concerns, whether it's because of asthma or asthma or Lyme disease, or, someone in their family might be susceptible, you got to let them. We don't know enough about this disease, this virus, to start, picking and choosing what we want and will and won't allow people to back away from. So WNBA, it looks like one of your teams got it right, but you guys got to really ease up on that. I get it. She's one of the faces of the entire league, but, she's got Lyme disease. It's a valid point. So let it go. You guys end up doing the right thing in the long run. We're going to jump in here. We're going to move on to your better than that. And the reason why I want to move so fast in the show is because there's a couple of topics I'm going to hit on later that are pretty controversial, but I need to talk about them. It's my show. The idea of this show, when the RTF brass came up to Mike and said they wanted us to do a show, is to get to know us better as people. Well, you're about to get to know me real well as a person. First of all, the Washington NFL football team, I guess we're not allowed to say that they're the Redskins anymore. story came out this week that 15 women accused high brass, high executives with the Washington Redskins of sexual harassment. Anything from sophomore patting a woman on the butt when she's walking by to lewd comments. It did come out that Daniel Schneider, the owner of the team, didn't know anything about this. I don't care if he knows anything or not. Dude, you got to sell the team. First of all, you're pathetic. You've held on to this whole Redskins thing for far too long because why? You're a fan of the team from when you were a kid? Who gives a crap? You know what? I'm a fan of the Packers. If I come into a lot of money, it doesn't mean that you just give me the team. You know, you're not qualified. Your team's been horrible on the field, and now you hire horrible people on the field. I'm sorry. This isn't a judgment. This is an assessment. Very rarely in my life have I come across someone and thought to myself, man, this guy is a pompous ass, and then find out that he treats women with a whole lot of respect, or vice versa. Very rarely have I ever seen someone, treating, their wife, their significant other, or just someone of the opposite gender in gender just, like crap, but they treat everyone else great. You would have seen this coming, Daniel. Anyone else would have seen this coming. You need to step aside as the owner. Let someone else take over the team. Let someone else buy the team. Change the name. Start fresh. This might be the last, nail in your coffin. This is ridiculous. People want women to, work in all different workplaces, and they should. There's a lot of qualified women out there, as many, if not more than men. But which of them would ever want to work for a franchise like yours that treats women like crap? Not a good look, buddy. Not a good look at all. So I just really think that this was just the tip of the iceberg, the whole changing the name thing. Once you started to see endorsement companies, FedEx, for example, wanted to back out of, their sponsorship of the team in the stadium, you started to figure out that more and more stuff was going to come out. Then minority owners of the team, people with smaller percentages of ownership were trying to sell their stake in the team. You started to realize that more things were coming out. And it's too bad. It's horrible. But, kind of like with the LA Clippers, when their owner, was caught on camera or caught on tape, making a lot of horrible racist comments, the NBA came in and said, dude, you got to sell your team right now. Well, Roger Goodell, this is when you need to do this. You need to get Daniel Snyder out and get a new ownership group, new fresh start in Washington with your football team. So that's all I had for that. Like I said, I want to get into some stuff. So my moment of Zen for this week is a little tough to talk about. We've been talking a lot about in society, the Black Lives Matter movement. And I'm very passionate about it. Why? Because I don't think anyone is any better than anyone else. I don't think that anyone deserves any unfair treatment or overly fair treatment. My dad, I've mentioned this several times. My dad's a retired police chief. I've gotten in trouble before. I didn't get out of it because of who my dad is. However, I had to pay the price like anyone else. But I do understand that there is, some certain people do start with certain advantages. But I did want to bring up an example of something that happened to me and the kids last week, Thursday. I live in an apartment complex. It's a pretty big apartment complex. There's only 550 units in it, so several buildings. And there's a community pool. And in that pool, on Thursday, late afternoon, early evening, on one side of the pool, there was a group of mid-20-year-olds, male, female, and my kids were playing on their end, middle of the pool area, and these mid-20-year-olds were on the deep end. And there was a woman, part of that group, who was being vulgar is not the word to describe it. I counted at least 20 different times where she used the F-bomb and 20 additional times where she used the N-word, screaming it. I heard the first couple of times her screaming it before I even got in the pool area from the other side of the building. And it was obnoxious. And I think that the other people in her group could tell that I was becoming frustrated with it. Why? Not for me. I can turn someone to mute real fast, quick, and in a hurry. But I do have impressionable 12 and 9-year-olds. And I knew that was a conversation I was going to have. Is that appropriate? Is it not? And I just knew that conversation was going to happen because they're old enough to know that the N-word is something that you just don't say. They're allowed to watch PG-13 movies as long as me or their mom watched it first, and we make sure that the F word isn't being used in those movies because we don't feel it's appropriate. But I knew that I was going to have to explain it. Now, when we were done going up to eat dinner, we were heading back up to my apartment and walking down the hallway and ran into a gentleman who's probably in his mid 50s. And he obviously was coming home from work, has a briefcase in his hand. And he walked by my kids and goes, "Hey guys, looks like you were at the pool." And they're like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Isn't it great that the pool is open again?" They're like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Have a great time, guys. And, I'm glad you had fun." And I looked at him. I said, "Thanks, buddy." He goes, "Thank you. Have a good night." There was 2 different instances where my kids came in contact with several different people. Now, the funny thing about the story that I just told is I never once mentioned the race of either person, but I'm sure everyone listening to this show probably had an idea of the race people were talking about. Why? Because, it's acceptable in some cultures to use that word, the N word, if you are of that race that's being talked about. Well, when it comes to the Black Lives Matter movement, I guess I have a suggestion, and this is coming from a 44-year-old white guy. If you want to be treated with the respect that every human being should be, well, then act like it. Don't use the N-word and don't scream F-bombs with children around, because it wasn't just my kids. There were 8 other kids. All of them appeared to be younger than my children, who are 12 and 9. They looked like they were 5 through 11 years old, in that age group. And there were other parents around. But if you want to be treated with respect that your quote unquote life matters, well, then act like it. It was irresponsible of you to do that. And the gentleman who I stopped in the hall, middle-aged white guy. My example was polar opposites. Maybe my point, is maybe it has something to do with age. This guy was older than me by probably 8 to 10 years. Those other people were, and they were, and in the group of people, in all fairness, they were white, black, there. That's fine. All I'm saying is that if you want to be treated with a higher level of respect, you deserve to. But you got to do your part too, because it's hard for me to look at you with respect when you're using terminology that I don't want to be around my children. In the privacy of your own apartment, that's your business. But in public, with children, with other adults around, don't. You want to be treated, it's the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. So, if you want respect, show respect. There's no reason, none of what you said at the pool needed to be said. So, like I said, my point is that it's pretty simple. We can solve a whole lot of world's problems if we just start treating each other the way we want to be treated. You don't want me to use that word? I would never use that word to you, but then don't use it around me or my children, because what did you just do without even knowing it? You pretty much said, "Hey, kids, it's okay to use this stuff because they're of an impressionable age." Anyway, that's my point. It's just a suggestion. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. All right, we're going to move on now, San Since that topic was a little heavy, I get it. I'm going to go into some things that are a little more lighthearted and a little bit more about let's get to know GBG. Once again, thanks for joining me either live on Facebook, on Twist the Week in Sports Talk, maybe on Twitter, maybe on the RTF Sports Network. Thanks for joining me on that. I know that podcast network's getting a whole ton of views, whole ton of follows. It's great to see all that. So what I wanted to get into are because Mike and Matt do a lot of top 5 lists, top 5 fantasy this, top 5 greatest that. They do favorite movies. I'm going to do my top 3 pet peeves, things that for some reason annoy me. Now, hopefully everyone understood the lightheartedness of this, because none of this is really all that big of a deal. They're just things that I find quirky and annoying. Number 3 on that list. The number 3 thing that annoys me is when someone refers to any random day of the week as my Friday. Why does that annoy me? I don't know. But no one's ever asked me to go to church on their Tuesday, or do I want to watch football on their Thursday, or, if they want to go out to the restaurant, TGI Mondays. No. If your Friday is Friday. You maybe just happen to have off on Friday. So maybe Thursday is your Friday. Maybe Tuesday and Wednesday are your off days. So Monday is the last day before your couple of day break. Friday is Friday. I don't know why, but for some reason, when someone uses the phrase my Friday when referring to any other day of the week other than Friday, it annoys me. Like I said, I don't know why, but it does. Number 2 on my list of goofy things that are my pet peeves that annoy me. When someone says to me, yeah, I've met that person, I don't know, 6 or 7 times. You can only meet someone once. You may have had 5 or 6 additional encounters with them, but you can only meet someone once. So I hate it when someone says, yeah, I've met them, I don't know, 6, 7 times. I've met them a couple of times. No, you can only meet someone once. Look it up. Once again, don't know why it bothers me. It just is real quirky. Now for the big dog. This is the one that has driven me nuts for over 20 years, probably closer to 25 years. It is misuse of the word irony or ironic. In fact, for those of you who are my age or a little bit younger, you're probably familiar with the Alanis Morissette song, Isn't It Ironic? Well, here's the funny thing about that song. Nothing in that song is actually ironic. Most of it is an unfortunate coincidence. Some of it is just bad luck. 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife? Bad planning. Raining on your wedding day? Sure, it can be ironic if the sole purpose for you to have a wedding on that specific day of the year was to avoid rain, and you picked a place, middle of the desert in Arizona, where over the course of the past 50 years it has never rained on that day. Then yes, it would be ironic. But raining on your wedding day is bad luck. Plane crashing on your first flight, bad luck. Other than that, unfortunate coincidence. None of it is actually ironic. So look up the definition of the word ironic. Very few things in the world, very few situations actually turn out to be ironic. But you know what? It's not ironic. Anything in Alanis Morissette's song, isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic? No, it's not. Okay. So moving on. We are just flying through this. Now, the last thing I wanted to get into is the GVG challenge. So here's my challenge for the week. And this will, because sports are coming back soon, this will probably be the last time that we talk about a lot of social issues, in the past tense and kind of like, fill in that gap. But last week I got into a lot about the names on the back of the jerseys for the NBA players, where they're going to be allowed to wear. Hold on. Mike from Mike on the Mic commenting on it. Thanks, Thesaurus. Actually, that's Dr. Dictionary. You're right. It's not a thesaurus. Thesaurus is where you find similar words with words with similar meanings. Dictionary is more appropriate. But I appreciate it nonetheless. So what I want to talk about now is, following up on the whole different players choosing to either put phrases like Black Lives Matter on the back of their jerseys, or some cases other players not to. Makes for a very strong movement, and a lot of people are, having opinions about this. Well, here's my opinion on the Black Lives Matter movement. If you're on Facebook or Twitter, or someone just posts something, I don't do any others. I don't do Instagram or Snapchat or anything like that, so I don't know how that works. But if someone says Black Lives Matter in this day and age, in the past couple of months, ever since the George Floyd murder by the police officer in Minneapolis, and you respond with all lives matter or my life matters too, I hope to God that you do not have a significant other. I hope you're not in a relationship. Because if you are, you're probably the same type of person who, if your significant other comes home from work and says, honey, I had a horrible day today, you're probably the same person that would say, oh, you want a bad day? Let me tell you about my day. And then go off on a 10-minute, 10-minute dialogue about how horrible your day was. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes people just want to be listened to. If someone says Black Lives Matter, respond with, please explain to me your, viewpoint on it. Explain to me what, from your perspective, is the problem, because I'd like to be part of the solution. Because I know for gosh darn sure that if someone important to me in my life, whether it was my girlfriend or, someone else, said to me, my parents, my siblings, my buddies, someone said to me, oh, I'm having the worst day possible. My mind says, ask them what the problem is, because maybe all they need to do is talk about it. And, they might gain perspective. It's just a thought. But don't be the asshole who turns around and says, oh, yeah, you think your life's bad? Well, how about this? And then go off onto some tangent about what's going on in your life. That's not what it's about. It doesn't always have to circle around you. It doesn't always have to circle. We don't have to live in a society where we're always looking to one up the other person. Someone else, someone does one thing. Well, you don't have to do it one better. Someone has one cause that they're trying to find social justice for. You don't have to find something better. But for gosh sakes, guys, it's okay to just say, please explain. That's all I got. Okay. And you know what? You know what's funny about this show? I fly through it. I really don't have a lot of notes in here. I just had a couple of things to talk about. I was going to talk more about golf, but there was a rain delay, and it turned out to be just a runaway by Rahm. Tiger got back this week. Next week, we're going to get into a lot more sports because sports are coming back. Baseball is going to be coming back on Thursday, and it's going to be fun to start talking about sports again. I can't wait until we get back in the Twist studios, and we're picking, I'm picking the player to watch for the week. We're picking, bets of the week on legitimate, actual things that we know about. We're not picking Russian Premier Soccer. We're not picking MMA that we know nothing about. We're picking baseball, basketball, eventually down the road, football. It's going to be fun. Things are coming back slowly, but they're coming back. So once again, folks, episode 10 of GBG. I appreciate you all tuning in and listening. Once again, Twist Sports Talk, RTS Sports Network, maybe Facebook. Either way, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. GBG out.